Greetings, YouTube. One of my subscribers asked me recently for some advice about a campaign idea he's working with. The campaign idea is based off of a Pathfinder game, and he wants to use the Pathfinder fantasy world. I'm assuming it's the official one, but it could be any fantasy world based in the Pathfinder rules, as an incursion into our world, the real world. So, he wants some thoughts about how I think this should be done, the power levels that might be involved, how to do it gradually, that kind of thing. And I think you can do this one of two ways. You can do it from the Pathfinder world of magic into our world, or you can do it be in our world and have the incursion happen while you're here. Now, if you're starting in the Pathfinder game, at least you have some major advantages. Everybody in the game is going to be geared around a world of magic. And you could have the incursion be a gate. You could have the incursion be a curse, as in the party gets cursed and they get teleported to our world for some length of time. Or it could happen intermittently. It could happen permanently. Or you do a one-way shot. The group gets teleported to our world and they're stuck here. It's going to be much more difficult if you start here, particularly if you want it to be a secret. It's easy to start someone in a fantasy game, like a Pathfinder's game, and have it a one-way teleport, and you don't play to, like, 4th or 5th level, maybe even 6th level, and then you dump them here. So they're just running a Pathfinder game. They have no idea what's going to happen to them. They're not prepared for it. They haven't designed their characters around it, and that's the point. Their characters wouldn't be designed around that trip if they, unless they had foreknowledge, and they shouldn't. But if you're playing Pathfinder here, how are you going to do it? Pathfinder is not really geared towards a modern setting. Now, there is a book out there called The Modern Path, which is a Pathfinder version of D20 Modern. And the kindest thing I can say is that it didn't impress me. And we'll leave it at that. You could use it, but it's going to take some work. And I think if you tried to use it, your players, and you're trying to keep them in the dark, your players might be asking, well, why aren't you using Delta Green or Call of Cthulhu or Savage Worlds, or any other possible game that's much better geared to our world than a version of D20 Modern that's been, given the Pathfinder treatment. It is possible, but if you do that, it's not going to be an incursion of the classic Pathfinder world, because you're going to now be looking at it through the lens of the D20 Modern rules, which have been modified for the Pathfinder game. So, I think that will be much more difficult to do. Not impossible, but more difficult. Particularly if you want to keep the mystery. And if you don't want to keep the mystery, and you have a group that you think is good enough that they could play their characters as being completely ignorant of what's about to happen, you're lucky. Because I don't know anybody that could do that. No player I've ever had, I think, could be that clean and play ignorant that well, not to have designed something about their character to take advantage of the fact that eventually this world is going to be infected by magic. Now, how to do it once they get here either way. Once the magic starts, how to do it? Well, I would start off small. The first magical incursion is like cantrip, orison level stuff. Creatures that show up here from the magical world are going to be under one, a CR of 1. It's like half CRs, okay? So really low level things. Maybe even just fantasy animals. They're completely mundane, but they're weird. They're not from our world. That might be a good way to go. Or fantasy plants. Alchemical concepts that aren't fully magical, but are, but they can't be made here. So how did they get here? How do they work? That kind of thing. And as time passes, and you'd have to dictate how much time passes, the spell levels go up. And you keep pace with that. I would do a 1-to-1 at first. So like, first level would be first level spells. Once that power level hits, you can do a CR 1 creatures. Then you start doubling it. So, you double the spell level. So, a second level spell will be now that CR 4s could be in the world. A third level spell would be CR 6s in the world. Things like that. You don't want to do it in geometric, because that would get really powerful fast. So that once you get 9th level spells in the world, you could have a CR of 18 in the world, which is pretty darn tough. And all the while, all the accompanying types of different creatures and magical aspects could be slowly seeping into the world. Now, if I were going to run this, I would do it from the magical world, run them to 5th or 6th level, and dump them here. And when they get here, the power level is going to be, again, half CRs, orisons, and cantrips. So suddenly this group, which has been playing for 6 levels with all the powers and stuff that they're used to, suddenly finds themselves stripped of it all. This is where the rogues and the fighters are going to shine for at least a while until the magic starts to come back. Don't give them any language skills. Don't have common be English. Have common be a language completely alien to Earth. Or maybe the magical language is somewhat related to Latin, for example. So the magic user in the group knows Latin, and that's not all that useful here. Not horribly unuseful, but it's a foothold, but it's not full fluency with everyone around you. Okay? Though I did know someone who was able to function in Europe with Latin, and she couldn't speak French or Spanish or Italian, but she knew Latin, and she was able to get by reasonably well, and make them learn English. Say if you dumped them in the United States, which is the most likely, because most people playing this game are probably in the U.S. That would be the most likely thing I would do. I'm lazy. And then again, as time progresses, and I would have to decide how much time that was, maybe it's 1 spell level per level they gain, things start to get more powerful, and more things begin to feed into the world. Now, I would have the point they end up here as the point from which magic began to spread. The group itself could go anywhere they wanted to, but the magic and the incursion would be in one location, and then it would slowly spread from there. I would take a look at Monty Cook's The World of Darkness book for some ideas. Obviously, I wouldn't use it straight because it's a much bigger scale incursion. But I think it might have some good ideas at least. So that's how I would run this. I wouldn't do it from the modern world and have them come in. I think that's just too difficult to do, and I think it's going to give too many hints away that there's a reason you're using the Pathfinder system. I would start from the Pathfinder game, play it as a straight Pathfinder game, and then dump them here. That's how I would run it. And then again, I would have the power levels very low and slowly move their way up as time progresses. And of course, the social impact of a world of suddenly having magical creatures here. What is happening? Are other people that are in this mundane world suddenly able to use powers because they have always believed they could, or because they have always followed religious traditions that said they were using magical abilities, and suddenly they are? So what impact that has is going to be far-reaching and really complex. There's a lot of background work that's going to have to be done for this campaign. This is not something you want to be doing on the fly, I don't think. So that's what I do. That's how I would run it. I hope that I have offered some useful advice to you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing in the comments below or in video responses how you would run a campaign about infiltrating our world with a Pathfinder fantasy game.